Hey, it's your boy, Sergeant Hooked on Heroes, hitting you with another brand spanking review, this time for Kamen Geats, episode 39. Last week's debut for the full form of Geats 9 was absolutely my favorite episode so far. And this one does a really good job of setting up things, but I like it because it does it better than the other resets we've gotten, in my opinion. Also, Geats tattoo. Yeah, it hurts. It's healing right now, but yeah, I love it. And then I got my Forza tattoo touched up a little bit, so I got to get the yellow done on the eyes there. But yeah, so really excited about that. Few little notes before we start the review. Starting as of now, I'll probably do one more King Oja review, and then I'm going to take a break on the King Oja reviews and focus more on Geats and doing some other videos, some more Tokutoy views, Marvel videos, Star Wars videos, things of that nature. It's just getting to be a lot to force myself to have time to watch both the shows twice every week, so I can make sure I get it all in my head, right? So I remember exactly what happens, and to be able to review it adequately for you guys. Not to say I'm going to completely give up on King Oja. I'm still going to watch it. You'll probably still here and there see my thoughts on it on Twitter. And I probably will eventually do a catch-up review later on. But for a little while here, I just want to kind of take a break and lighten my load in terms of content, just so I can put it more into other types of content that will be able to be filmed a little faster and will be able to kind of further expand what we do on the channel, right? So I'm not giving up on Sentai. I've not given up on King Oja. I'm still going to watch it. Just the reviews are going to kind of slow down, and I'll probably do a catch-up review of how I feel about the show going forward in a little while. So anyway, that out of the way. Geat 39. Holy shit. So going from last week, Ace has completely created his own new DGP. He's the only one in it right now, and he set up a few rules that all the people that were riders, literally everybody, a few people that shouldn't remember this, will have their memories restored, but they're going to be given the choice to be a rider if they want. He said that it shouldn't be in the hands of, the management up in the lofty clouds, basically away from everybody, that should be choosing to the people to be riders. People should get the choice if they want to, since they remember being one, and if they want to do it again, given the right to do it. And so he's trying to wipe out the rest of the Jamato that are left. There's still Jamato remnants. He had Sumori stay with them and restored her memories as well, and that he'll still need a navigator and all of that. And we do get confirmation that Suduru is still alive. Suduru, whatever, is still alive, as is Samus, and eventually a villain revealed near the end. We'll get to that. So we do get to see little glimpses of the people left, so the people we've been focused on. So Keiwa and Michinaga for sure, talking about they come together, and actually Michinaga just comes to his house. He's like, how'd you find my address? Doesn't even answer him. They're talking about, do you have your memories back? Yeah, I do. What's going on? Grand End happened, and somehow we have him back. And they think it has something to do with Ace, but they're not sure, because they didn't see everything happening with him becoming, a desire god himself. And so they kind of talk it out for a while, and then Sarah, actually in this episode, it's kind of cute. Her and Neon are kind of hanging out, and she's helping Neon get her stuff together, because Neon's trying to find her own, place to live, just getting her life together on her own, right, away from her parents. And, she ends up finding a house, and Sarah is what did you want to see it first? Nope, I'll pay cash up front. The guy's like, thank you. She buys it, but of course, because she's so rich and everything has always been kind of given to her, she doesn't even understand. She goes, okay, when's the furniture wrapped? She goes, well, us common folk have to go buy all of that. We pick it all out and buy it, and they have it delivered. And he's like, oh. And she didn't understand that. So Sarah says that she'll help her, and they're, being besties. And it's just cool to see another female character, decently strong-ish female character, interact with their other pretty strong female character and have a friendship and just be well written. It's weird that I have to point that out, but it's still really cool and fun to see them have these little moments. We also get the reintroduction of Beruba and Keikara, whose wishes separately were Beruba's was to exist within this world until she sees her ideal misery, and Keikara's until he sees his ideal laughs. So he's still kind of more, morally gray and not for sure actually really on Keiwa's side. He's still trying to push him to be a true blue Kamen Rider, whatever that means. Speaking of that I just mentioned that word there. So Keiwa, during this episode, it's really funny. He's writing down, I think it's supposed to be a handwritten resume of sorts. And his work experience, my man writes down Kamen Rider, and he's like, crunches it up in a ball, throws it away, and starts over. So very quickly though, we see the Jamato are still around. There's a skate park. People are just skating around, whatever, and this cop's up and you got to stop. Like, what we're supposed to? What do you mean? This is a skate park where it's legal. And he turns into a Jamato. He starts attacking people. Geats comes in, and of course, Boost Mark 9. Yeah, I'm getting that review out. Don't worry, and I'm probably henshin. And defeats him, and a little itty bitty tiny Jamato, what we learn later is like a Jamato seed or whatever, comes out and it's on fire and it goes away, and the person turns back to normal. So it seems to be a new setup. These little tiny Jamato infect people, turn them into a Jamato, and if they're defeated, the person is saved and the little seed has to be destroyed too, or just keep doing it again. So he's really worried about that. Doesn't know how the Jamato are left around, but whatever. So him and Sumari, most of the episode, are kind of investigating this. They go to one of the Jamato garden areas, and they see some like Jamato goop left around. He's like, this is fresh. There's somebody around here. See somebody running around, doesn't catch them, and says that, we still need to keep our eyes on this. Like, there's something going on here. I don't know how this happened. We also get the idea that Geats has kind of exhausted himself using his creation powers to create the DGP, meaning he's kind of cut some corners and hasn't really figured out everything. Case in point, how to like fully restore everybody that was, hurt by, the Desire Grand Prix, all the, people that died or whatever, and just in general fixing things. And that he says he hasn't fully become accustomed to his powers, but he's, working on that. I'm guessing this is what's going to be the lead into him giving, because Neon and Sarah talk about it, and they say that, it's interesting because they have their memories back because they had their cores destroyed. And he even says that he tried to do it for them, but for some reason it didn't work because of their cores being destroyed. So I'm guessing he'll have to create new cores for them. I'm assuming maybe he'll just create the same one for Sarah. I don't know. But maybe that'll be the way to kind of mess with it a little bit, is that he'll have to create new ID cores for them, which makes sense because the toy listing thing for the Nago upgrade thing with Fantasy or whatever is supposed to be a golden version of her ID core. So I'm guessing he'll have to recreate a new core for her. I'm really, really fingers crossed, holding out hope for Ben and John, for Garoon and Lancer to get their cores back. Maybe a little different looking, same like cat, whatever design in the center, maybe a different color. I don't know. I just want them to be back and have helmets and have suits. It'd be great. We've had Tom on the show. Tom, if you're watching, we love you so much on the Henshin's Homies podcast. But anyway, so said he hasn't figured that out. He's eating a bunch of food and kind of getting his energy back, and he's just kind of like growing pains, figuring out how these powers work. And I like this. I like that it's not like in Gaim, where pretty quickly, what's his name became like a full, fruit Jesus pretty quickly. I like that it's taking some time for Ace to get used to his powers. So like I said, Suduru is not gone, neither is Samus, and a new person they're putting through, a new game producer called Geats. And she said Sudoru's orders are for you to, burn out Geats, take him out, and really like fully reactivate the Grand End that was postponed. And he's like, of course I got it, no problem. And she's like, well, be careful, he has world creation powers. And he's like, well, then we'll have to fight his world creation powers with our own somehow. And he mentions talking about Sumari and about her, being like fully making her the second generation Desire Goddess, right? So I like that there's still a threat against her, that she's still kind of in danger in terms of being forcibly, turned into a Desire Goddess. And Punk Jack's still around. He's broing out with Ace, and Ace says, if you could, because he mentions, I don't think Suduru will back down that easily. He's like, well, if you could maybe get on the management's, trail a little bit, that'd be great. And that the only real reward for being part of this new DGP is really just to help people. There really is no actual wish reward. It's just to help people. And he's like, wow, you really know how to manipulate people and get me to basically, like, do this for no pay. And he's like, yeah, I know. And they kind of fist bump, and it's kind of cool. I like their like burgeoning friendship, because he's kind of the reason, Ace is kind of the reason that Punk Jack pulled out of even being a part of like fully the DGP and realizing that he was being used. And now he's starting to become a force for good, and I kind of like it. He was never really evil. He was just kind of like the bad boy kind of being used until he realized he was being used, and then kind of grew from there, right? So, he's off doing his thing, trying to figure that out as well. Like I said, Keikara and Baraba are back in it. They meet back up with Michinaga and Michinaga and Keiwa. Kind of ask them, what are you going to do? Are you going to be part of this? Because Keiwa is actually fighting off one of the Jamato that's hurting some of the people, but he doesn't have his rider powers, and these are much stronger Jamato. So he's kind of getting his ass kicked a little. And he tells them that he doesn't really want to work with him. He doesn't trust them, blah, 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 Keikara. And, Keikara's like, really, are you really going to let all these people stand by? And he's really trying to manipulate him. And again, I I feel like if I rewatched up to now, it would make more sense where Kakarot is now as opposed to when he was introduced. He put himself out at first being this force for good, different from Baraba, didn't really like what she was doing. But now that he's worked through a little bit, I feel like she's had a negative impact on him. And now he is more like darker, like morally gray than he was before. But it's okay. I still they still need to set up a decent threat, and I like that we've gotten some little inklings of things for what we're going forward with the threat. But at the end of the episode, we finally see the person who is actually working on the Jamato. We see a little like topiary thing with a little glass thing with some plants in it and little itty bitty Jamatos. It's Daichi somehow back. I'm assuming it's some way of it's not really Daichi. I'm guessing it's his ID core that she picked up, Baraba, and she made a Jamato version of him. He also is acting very much so like Archimetal, so I wonder if Archimetal is a combination of that as well, but he already has like Jamato infection across part of his face, and he wants to, help the Jamato take over the world and blah, 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 just so we can still have the foot soldiers in there. So overall, I really like this episode, the multiple times using Geats 9, because it's such an amazing fucking suit, henshin sequence, buckle, everything. Really cool thing to note is there's some little details too. In the news, officially it gets revealed about the Jamato. The Jamato are seen in the public, they report it, and Neon's father's pissed. And he calls his government contacts, like, what are you guys doing? He's like, well, why are we going to hide it anymore? He's like, what do you mean? He's like, we don't have no reason to hide it anymore. We have no benefit from that. Where the Desire Grand Prix clearly has nothing to do with wishes now, so we're not going to do that. I wonder if that's a little bit of Ace's doing too, because he knew that Kosei was a bit of an ass and wanted to kind of fuck him up a little bit. So he's getting investigated straight up. It shows that on the news. And Ace saves some civilians in suit, completely in suit. They see him, transform and fight and help them. So we're getting kind of more of a thing where the riders are more out in the open, and I kind of like this. I still liked the setup before where it was a game and it was like this game area and blah, blah, blah. When it was done, the people lost their memories and whatever. But I do like this different era of it where now it's the same riders we've had, Michinaga, Ace, Keiwa, and Neon, and supposedly Sarah and Punkjack, but that they're going to be more public and be out there doing their thing. And maybe this would be a lead into what they do with Neon going forward with her public image. Maybe she'll make her channel be all around being a hero and solving and stopping crimes, stuff like that. Who knows? There's a lot of ways they could go with it. I don't think we're fully done with moments between her and her parents. I think that's going to be coming up soon, especially with the stuff leading to the fantasy buckle. So yeah. So like I said, overall, a really awesome episode. Lots of really big things set up to kind of flesh out this world, and it's not done yet. That's what I like, is that because, Ace is new to this whole thing, he's not fully figured all of the odds and ends out of it, and I like that. I also like that even though he's a desire god, he's not invincible, and that he's made some mistakes and cut some corners. I really like that. I was kind of worried with this being the setup of him being a desire god and having the Geats 9 buckle and all of that he was going to be just this perfect, sees everything coming from a mile away, there's no threat. But it seems like they're not fully going that way. But overall, really liked it. If I had to score it, I'd probably give it a strong 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. Not as much as the debut from last week, but it's a really strong setup episode for the next arc for through to the end, and what we're going to get for episodes going forward. Clearly, we're being set up that next up is going to be Keiwa's arc leading into his final form, the Shogun buckle, if it is really what it is. We are in the era of leaks being illustrations now, like people getting an idea of what the details are, what these buckles look like, doing an illustration of it, and it kind of looking like it. His being like a sword, a samurai sword in a sheath, and it coming out, and then like it. I'm thinking that it's going to be a similar final form setup to the Geats 9 buckle, where these pieces come apart, go on separately, and then you revolve on and press a button to fully transform into it, and there'll be like a Boost Mark 3-esque version of the form first, and then it breaks off into the final form for them. They don't have to do that with all of them, but I could definitely see it happening with Keiwa. But let me know in the comments below. What do you guys think? Where we're going with things next, and how things are settling up as far as the plot lines, what we have left to do. We still have Keiwa's final form to introduce. We still have Michinaga's finally the Mao Buffalo thing. We still have, which by the way, I'm thinking he took away his powers, OP powers. Supposedly, Neon is supposed to be getting the fantasy buckle alongside a variant of it for Seeker, is supposed to be a part of it too, and he's supposed to have that as part of what he does. yeah, so we still got some final forms to debut. So I'm really excited to see what they do with that and if those stories are, worthwhile and like have enough room to breathe. But let me know in the comments below. What do you guys think of the episode? Good, bad, in the middle? What do you guys think, going forward with how some of these final forms might work? Are they all going to follow the same design language as the Boost Mark 9 buckle? Boost Mark 9, Mark 3 buckle? Or do you think they're going to be a little different? Of all of them, I probably would go for Kawa's, honestly. I like Buffa, but not enough to like need his stuff. If you guys do, that's awesome. I think it's going to look great. The colors are going to be great. All of it. But probably out of everybody's, I would probably go for Kawa's final form thing as far as any other items from Geats. But yeah, so like I said, really enjoyed it. Straight 9 out of 10. Next week is setting up the next arc with Kawa, getting into his final form. We do see a glimpse of the helmet. Looks really cool. Not sure if it's the complete form, like if it's the Boost Mark 3 form, or if it's the Boost Mark 9 type, equivalent. But I do think it looks cool. So, and I like that it's using, we see the green in it and stuff like that, like the color set that he has from Ninja mostly within the final form. That's cool. But yeah, so as far as content this week, this review, my Toku Toy review on the Geats Mark 9 buckle. Pretty soon, once all the episodes are out and I've finished all of them, once it's all finished, the English dub release of Ultraman Z, I'm going to review that, talking about what I think about the whole show, and also the highlights of like the voice acting in it, the voice actors they got to voice the characters. I did recently also watch Shin Godzilla, so I'm thinking about doing a review for that. It's a little different being a movie review, but I just thought I would do something like that off the cuff, just something else content-wise. Pretty soon in July, I think, is when Shin Ultraman comes out. So once I have that and have time to watch it, definitely gonna, put out all the stops to put a review up for that as well. But thank you guys so much for liking, commenting, subscribing, watching, all that good stuff. It really means a lot to me. Thank you guys for leaving the comments and stuff like that. Definitely check out the Henshins and Homies podcast. We had our most recent episode. We had a huge, nearly 2-hour discussion on Shin Kamen Rider and also our favorite secondary riders. It was me, Frankie, of course, but then also Squall Charleston, Britt Grayson, and Squid Boy Toys. We also are changing up, if you didn't watch that one, a little bit of the schedule with that. It'll be every couple of weeks. So this week, as we're recording this video, will be no episode of the show. Next week there will be. Just to give us some buffer in between the episodes to just do stuff, life stuff. I mean, Frankie's got school coming up. I have, being a dad and working and a husband and all that kind of stuff. Just kind of give us some time to breathe and get things figured out and whatever. But yeah, like I said, thank you guys so much for being a part of this channel. I appreciate the hell out of you. If you guys have ideas for videos, leave them in the comments below. Message me directly. You know how to do it. But until always, and like always is what I mean, until next time, stay hooked on heroes. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.